Hello, Moon to Moon. Welcome back. We are continuing now in our series of self-abandonment in the houses. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the sixth house. If you're watching this in YouTube, you see that I have a different background because I am traveling right now. I'm feeling very grateful that I'm in a place in my life where I can take my daughter to go look at colleges. We're in California. We're going to be driving up the coast together from San Diego to San Francisco across 10 days. And just turn me. I'm really just soaking it up. We just got here. There's a helicopter flying overhead right now. We're going to be going to see UC San Diego in a few hours. So far, she's in love. And yeah, I think I'm going to have a child in California. So exciting. So I'm making a moment to keep up the conversation with you on this exploration that I'm really enjoying. I hope you're enjoying it too. If you are enjoying Moon to Moon generally, or this series in particular, please share about that in the comments. Please share about it through a rating or review. Please share it by sending your favorite one to a friend. Send a house that matters a lot to someone, to that person. Help me spread the word about this series because series explorations, things as if we move through the signs, if we move through the planets, if we move through the houses, there's such a beautiful momentum around that focus. Like, y'all know I love frameworks. I love framings. They allow us to give something our attention and really be with something for a while, and be immersive with it. And from that devotion, we reveal, right? We learn things. Things are revealed. Insights are revealed. Wisdom is revealed, not just through me, the speaker of the words, but through you, the receiver of the words. As the words arrive within you, so you see things, you feel things, you know things, you sense truth for you. And shit, like that's the coolest thing ever. That's gnosis. When I talk to you about gnosis, visualize Gnosis. I'm saying that for if you're like me, like I can't really relate to something unless I understand how to see it and like actually spell it. Gnosis, gnosis, which is the same root as Gnosticism. Gnosis means wisdom. In my emergence astrology space, which is the pathway is the deepest way to get into my work. It really is now becoming the way to get into my work, like with the teachings, with the teachings. These are the teachings. What we cultivate there is personal and collective gnosis. And an absolutely brilliant student who's finishing year two now recently said something about how um gosh, I don't have the slip of paper next to me where I wrote the quote, but it was something about how through everything that we do in life, the thing that we have that no one can take away from us is our gnosis. It is the thing that you have. Your gnosis is your truth. It's your insights. It's your knowing. For most people walking on earth, we were not taught to listen to this. We were not taught to cultivate this as the most important skill that there is. We were not guided to reference this as the most important thing for knowing how to be here, knowing how to navigate life, knowing how to identify what we want and move toward it. But gnosis is the thing. And in my spaces, we cultivate personal gnosis, so whereby I am the guide who brings words through to you, like I do here. And what happens to you, right? What happens to you, listener of Moon to Moon? You come here, I imagine, not just for what I say, but for what happens in you as you receive what I say. And that is your gnosis. That is your insights. That's what I'm into. My job, what you pay me for, is not for the cool information. And let's be honest, the information is really cool. I'm really into it. I share with you my gnosis, right? I'm sharing my gnosis. That's why so much of what I say sounds different than the way it's usually spoken, is because it's coming from my own weird thing in me, which is my own gnosis. It's coming from a Britten place. I share my gnosis, and in that, something lights up in you that is becoming your gnosis. It doesn't sound just like what I said, it's different because it's yours. It's coming through your gifts, your frequency, your chart, your body graph. It's coming through your life, your truth. And that's your gnosis. And then in my spaces, what we do is we practice collective gnosis, where we're sharing in circle together. And someone says something, and it's kind of like what their insight was. And then now we're turning the wisdom into something we share together. And it gets way bigger because we're in a collective gnosis together. And it feels really alive. Like that really cool gnosis you had is now living inside of other people. It's way more real now. And it's moving beyond you. It's going to live through them now, and they're going to take it into their lives. That's the same thing I'm doing here on Moon to Moon with you, listener. You can do in my spaces with your colleagues, with me. You share yourself, they share themselves, and together we're building this world of gnosis that is changing the fabric of our experience of reality. And that is no small thing. That is no small thing, because all of us together create impacts on our own communities, our own networks, our own ecosystems, where together we are changing the field. This is the Emergence Astrology Pathway. Can you dig it? Doors open June 21. Okay. So whew, it begins with personal gnosis. That's what year one focuses on. We get big into collective impacts in year three. You'll see that next year as I'm actually holding year three for the first time, and you're going to see what we're doing. So get ready. But there's an intelligence to the pathway. We've been focusing on self-abandonment because it's difficult to see how we leave ourselves when being taught to leave ourselves is what we've been taught to do, because we've been taught to stay good to the authorities in charge. Authorities upon authorities upon authorities. It's like everywhere. Our experience of that is each of us different, depending on where you live in the world, depending on what kind of body that you live in, depending on your particularities, you're going to experience it differently and have kind of different struggles, different oppressions, different experiences of the violence of these authoritarian systems. And together, the matriarchy is already here, and we are healing. And one of the key ways we have to do this, we have to identify what self abandonment looks like so we can call it what it is and come back into our innocence and bring ourselves home. No more. No more. It stops here, is the commitment. That is the commitment you make when you enroll in Emergence Astrology Pathway, frankly, is big. So the sixth house is, oh gosh, it's a really big one because whew, it has a lot to do with the fact of living in bodies and how we care for them for their energetic health, and so that our bodies serve our lives. I think that for many, this business of shame around how you care for your body, shame for how your body can or cannot, or doesn't seem to be able to produce or hold or have the capacity for what we've been led to believe it has to be able to hold, produce, have capacity for in a day, in a month, in a year. There's a lot of shame there because we live in a culture that doesn't prioritize care. Like, this is grossly obvious in everything. We are not in a government here in the United States. We're not in a government system that prioritizes our care. The people in charge do not care. They don't care about our bodies. There that is. There are there's so much distortion around what makes a successful body. And this distortion has real consequences of damage and violence and despair in our lives. Even those born with very able, very energetic, athletic bodies, the strain and the striving to make it stay a certain way, make it get even more energetic, get even more athletic, get it even more a certain way so that we can be seen as something, so that we can survive here, so that we can thrive here, so we can find love here, like the worthiness around bodies and what they can do and not do, what they look like, don't like, this intense striving, living in a culture that doesn't care about our water, about food. I mean, all of these things are so big. It is so hard to know how to care for yourself amidst so much information that it's so hard to trust any source of information. One thing that we have not been encouraged to be here is intuitive. In an intuitive relationship with our bodies, in a relationship that centers resonance and how to live and care and thrive for ourselves in the most resonant, compassionate, loving ways, given the facts of capitalism and our systems and access to care. I feel like it's kind of a life path to be on to repair our relationship to our bodies, to love them like we would an animal that we adore, to be at peace with our bodies. This is a deep, deep wound. So it must be said. And the shame around like lack of skill or lack of sense of being far away from power with things like our administrative life, our like day to day clearing out the clutter and organization of systems. That's also part of sixth house because it's body system, but also like system of like home health, work health, systems health. And like for my part, as a very Piscean person of neurodivergence who's excellent at hyper focus and struggles with a lot of these day to day things, it's sometimes very difficult to know what's more loving. How to be loving with yourself when you know that becoming in resonance with your systems is part of your health and how you commit to living here on planet Earth. And so much of the sixth house to me is a commitment to living in bodies on planet Earth with all of this stuff. Yeah, not like my Pisces being sometimes just gets really overwhelmed by that. Just like, whoa, I would want to live in the water though. Like, why did we ever leave the water? Seriously. Maybe we can go back there. Like, it's not too late, right? Um, but some of the biggest healing of my life has been this very thing is like really picking myself up and learning how to take care of myself in this body, on this planet, in this moment with what is here, what needs my tending and attention, not because it's fun, but because I've committed to being here and this needs my attention. Yeah. So I feel like with self-abandonment in the sixth house, gosh, we all experience this one so different. So I want to be so mindful with my language. I think we all, it's really like feeling within you, like as you're listening, what comes up for you and how to be in the house of yourself, tending to the business of your body, honoring the sacredness of it, honoring the sacredness of what flows through and around you, and keeping everything updated to present time so there's not a lot of gunk hanging around of the past. But how to do all of it with something that's not being run by shame, so that shame in like a disciplinary tone is not the vibe. Because it's like, on the one hand, Britten, love, this wants your attention, but also I know you're doing the best you can and you don't need to be mean to yourself. What if a shamey disciplinary voice was not the voice of what was going to run this? How could I make this my way? How could I do this in a way that feels so loving, but also so um, clear that this is something I must tend to. I must, um, that my commitment to this is saying, yes, I commit to preserving life here. I commit to helping systems be clear here so that they can function in a thriving, healthy way. Because I love living here. I will give this my time today. I will give this my attention. I will give this my love. I will give this my attunement. But I'm not going to do it because fill in the blank, because I need to like anti age or whatever the thing is. Fill in where the shame is for you. I'm not going to do it because fill in the blank, inherited conditioning. I am going to turn to this because I'm a person who turns to life. I'm a person who turns to my body. I am a person who turns to the system's health of the things that I care about and that really matter to me and want my service. How does that feel? You know, this is one of those houses in the chart that the ancients called bad houses. We talk about this, me and Aaron Kelly, in the Unshaming the Sixth House episode. How to unshame, you know, like finding out that, say, you have a luminary in the sixth house or something like this. What does it mean for you? And like really getting to the heart of like the deep shame in the sixth house. Self-abandonment here is going to mean all of that deconditioning, reprogramming, clearing, so that you can do it in a way that is a you way that comes from your commitment to being here with yourself on this timeline, in this body, on planet Earth, here, now, every day. The tending of this and what it takes to be committed to that is exactly what I'm guiding you to do in the Emergence Astrology Pathway. Thank you all for being here. I hope that this was supportive, and I look forward to seeing you at the seventh house episode. Cheers.